What happens when a beloved television host faces off against royalty gone rogue? In just 31 seconds, a single comment would turn a friendly chat into the most explosive moment in talk show history. Graham Norton has seen it all. Decades behind that famous desk, countless A-listers, wild anecdotes, and spontaneous moments that become instant classics. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared him or his studio audience for what was about to unfold on this particular evening. The show starts like any other. The familiar theme music plays, the audience cheers, and Graham walks out with that signature smile and wave. He's in his element, working the crowd, making them laugh before he even sits down. Tonight's guest list looks promising. A few actors promoting their latest films, a comedian with a new tour, and then the big name, the one everyone's talking about, Prince Harry. When Harry walks out, the applause is thunderous. He's charming at first, all smiles and waves. He settles into the couch next to the other guests, and Graham kicks things off with some light banter. Easy questions, gentle ribbing, the kind of warm-up that makes for good television. Harry laughs along, tells a story about his kids, and everything seems perfectly normal. But then Graham asks about Harry's recent projects, his charity work, the things he's been passionate about. It's a softball question, the kind any publicist would dream of. Harry starts answering, but there's an edge to his voice that wasn't there before. He talks about feeling misunderstood, about the media twisting his words, about people not getting what he's trying to do. Graham, ever the professional, nods along. He's dealt with difficult guests before, knows how to steer a conversation back to safer waters. He tries to lighten the mood with a joke, something about how everyone in show business feels misunderstood sometimes. The audience laughs. The other guests smile nervously. Harry doesn't laugh. Instead, he turns to Graham with this look, this cold stare that makes the studio go quiet. "You think this is funny?" Harry says. His voice is low, but everyone hears it. The microphones pick up every word. "You think what I'm going through is some kind of joke?" Graham's smile falters just for a second. You can see him recalibrating, trying to figure out where this is coming from. No, of course not," he says. His tone still friendly, but more careful now. "I was just trying to." "Trying to what?" Harry cuts him off. "Make me look ridiculous? Turn my life into entertainment for these people?" He gestures at the audience, and you can feel the tension ripple through the room. The other guests have gone completely still. One of them is staring at the floor. Another is glancing toward the exit. This isn't playful banter anymore. This is something else entirely. Graham takes a breath. He's been hosting this show long enough to know when to push and when to pull back. "Harry, I think there's been a misunderstanding," he says. His voice is calm, measured, the voice of someone trying to de-escalate. "This is a light entertainment show. We're here to have fun, to share stories, to make fun of people," Harry interrupts again, "to tear them down while pretending to build them up. I've seen how this works, Graham. I've watched you do it to others." The accusation hangs in the air like smoke. Graham's face changes. The professional mask slips just slightly, and you can see genuine hurt underneath. This is his show, his creation, his safe space where celebrities come to relax and be themselves. And now someone is attacking it, attacking him, on live television. "That's not fair," Graham says quietly. "That's not what we do here, isn't it?" Harry leans forward, his voice rising. "Every joke at someone's expense, every embarrassing clip you show, every time you get someone drunk and convince them to spill secrets they'll regret tomorrow. That's your whole format, isn't it?" The audience is dead silent now. No laughter, no applause, just hundreds of people holding their breath, wondering what happens next. The cameras keep rolling because nobody knows what else to do. Graham sits back in his chair. You can see him making a choice, deciding how to respond. He could get angry, could defend himself forcefully, could turn this into a real fight, but that's not who he is. Instead, he speaks with quiet dignity. "I've been doing this show for many years," he says. "And in all that time, I've tried to create a space where people feel welcome, where they can be honest and vulnerable and yes, sometimes silly. Because that's what entertainment is. It's an escape. It's joy. It's laughter. If you think that's exploitation, then I'm sorry you feel that way. It's a perfect response, gracious and firm at the same time. The kind of response that should end the tension, should bring things back to normal. But Harry isn't done. "Sorry, I feel that way?" He laughs, but there's no humor in it. "That's classic. You're not actually sorry. You're just sorry I called you out on it." One of the other guests tries to intervene, tries to make a joke to break the tension. Harry barely glances at them. His focus is entirely on Graham now. Like everyone else in the room, has ceased to exist. Graham's expression hardens. "I think," he says carefully, "that perhaps you're going through something difficult right now, and you're taking it out on the wrong person." "Don't psychoanalyze me," Harry snaps. "You don't know anything about what I'm going through. You sit here in your comfortable chair, asking your comfortable questions, pretending to care about people's lives when really you're just mining them for content." "That's enough," Graham says. His voice isn't loud, but it cuts through everything else. "I've been patient, I've been understanding, but I won't sit here and let you insult me, insult my show, and insult this audience who came here to have a good time. Truth hurts, doesn't it?" Harry shoots back. "The truth," Graham says, standing up now, "is that you came on this show of your own free will. Nobody forced you to be here. And if you're so unhappy with how we do things, then perhaps you should leave." The words land like a bomb. You can hear people in the audience gasp. The other guests look like they want to disappear into the couch. This is unprecedented. Graham Norton doesn't throw guests off his show. He's the warm, welcoming host who makes everyone feel at home. But here he is, drawing a line in the sand. Harry stands up too. For a moment, they're facing each other across the coffee table, and nobody knows what's going to happen. Will Harry apologize? Will he storm off? Will this somehow get even worse? "You know what your problem is, Graham?" Harry says, his voice dripping with condescension. "You've been doing this so long, you've forgotten what it's like to be real. Everything's a performance for you. Everything's a bit. Well, some of us are trying to live authentic lives, trying to make a real difference in the world, and we don't need people like you trivializing it." Graham's jaw tightens. "Authentic," he repeats. "You want to talk about authentic? You came on a talk show, Harry. A talk show. That's what this is. If you wanted to change the world, there are 1,000 other platforms you could have chosen. But you came here because you wanted the publicity, wanted the audience, wanted the platform. So don't stand there and act like you're above it all. It's the most direct, most cutting thing Graham has said all night. And it's absolutely true." Harry's face flushes red. "How dare you?" Harry says. "Do you know who I am? Do you know who you're speaking to?" And there it is. The moment that will be replayed a million times, clipped and shared and analyzed endlessly, the entitled card, played in the most blatant way possible, Graham's. Expression shifts to something almost like pity. "I know exactly who you are," he says quietly. "And right now, you're someone who needs to leave my show." "Fine," Harry spits out. "I don't need this. I don't need you. This whole thing is beneath me anyway." He starts to walk off, but he can't resist one final parting shot. He turns back, pointing at Graham. "You're a dinosaur," he says. "Your whole format is outdated. Nobody cares about this anymore. You're just too stuck in your ways to see it." Graham doesn't rise to the bait. He simply stands there, dignified and calm, as Harry storms toward the exit. The audience doesn't know whether to applaud or stay silent. Most choose silence, too shocked to react. But just before Harry reaches the stage door, Graham speaks one last time. "I hope," he says, his voice carrying across the studio, "that when you've had time to cool down, you'll realize how you behaved tonight. Not for my sake, but for yours." Harry pauses for just a second, his hand on the door. For a moment, it looks like he might turn around, might say something else, but then he pushes through the door and he's gone. The silence that follows is deafening. Graham stands there for a long moment, then slowly walks back to his desk. He sits down, takes a breath, and looks directly at the camera. "Well," he says, and his voice is shaky, but he's smiling. "That was unexpected." The audience finally reacts, bursting into applause. Not because they enjoyed the confrontation, but because they're supporting Graham, showing him that they're on his side. He waves them quiet, trying to regain some composure. "I've been doing this show for a very long time," he continues, "and I pride myself on being a good host, on making people feel comfortable and welcome. I'm genuinely sorry that tonight didn't work out that way for all our guests." He glances at the other celebrities, still sitting on the couch, looking shell-shocked. "Are you lot okay?" he asks. And there's real concern in his voice. They nod, still processing. One of them makes a weak joke about never having seen anything like that before. Graham latches onto it, grateful for the chance to move forward, to get back to what the show is supposed to be. "Let's talk about literally anything else." Graham says, and the audience laughs. The tension finally starting to break. But even as he transitions into interviewing the other guests, even as he finds his rhythm again and gets the show back on track, you can see it's affected him. His smile doesn't quite reach his eyes the same way. His jokes land, but there's an undertone of sadness to them. During a commercial break, the audience can see him talking to the producers, shaking his head, clearly upset by what happened. But when the cameras come back on, he's professional Graham again, doing what he does best, entertaining people and making them feel good. The remaining guests do their best to deliver. They tell their stories. They laugh at Graham's jokes. They try to pretend that the first half of the show didn't happen. But everyone knows it did. Everyone knows that something unprecedented just occurred on live television. When one guest brings up their new movie, Graham asks all the right questions, shows genuine interest, makes them feel important. It's a masterclass in hosting, in making someone feel valued and heard. And it stands in stark contrast to how Harry behaved just minutes earlier. You see, Graham says at one point, gesturing to the guest he's interviewing, "This is what I love about this job, getting to hear people's stories, learning about their craft, celebrating their successes. That's what this show has always been about." The audience applauds again, understanding the subtext. This is Graham's show, his vision, and one bad guest isn't going to change that. As the show moves toward its conclusion, Graham seems to relax a bit more. The color returns to his face. His laughter sounds genuine again. He's resilient. You can see that. He's been knocked down, but he's not staying down. "Before we go," he says as they near the end, "I just want to say thank you. Thank you to our other guests tonight for being absolute professionals and handling an unusual situation with grace." The celebrities on the couch smile, relieved. "And thank you to this audience for being here, for your support, for your understanding." The applause is warm and sustained. People are standing now, showing their appreciation not just for the show, but for Graham himself, for how he handled an impossible situation. We'll be back next week, Graham says, with more guests, more stories, and hopefully a bit less drama. He grins. "Though knowing this show, I can't make any promises." More laughter, more applause. He's ending on a high note, refusing to let the confrontation define the entire evening. As the credits roll and the theme music plays, Graham stays at his desk, waving to the audience, thanking them for coming. The cameras capture him in his element, doing what he loves, surrounded by people who appreciate him. What started as a disaster has somehow transformed into a testament to Graham's professionalism, his character, his ability to handle crisis with grace. The audience files out buzzing with excitement, knowing they witnessed something they'll talk about for years. The other guests come over to shake Graham's hand, to offer words of support. You can see them telling him he handled it perfectly, that Harry was out of line, that nobody blames Graham for what happened. And Graham, ever gracious, thanks them. He makes sure they're okay, asks if they need anything, treats them with the same warmth and care he's shown to thousands of guests over the years. The studio lights start to dim. The crew begins breaking down the set. And Graham Norton sits at his desk for just a moment longer, taking it all in, processing what happened. Someone from the production team approaches, puts a hand on his shoulder. He looks up, smiles, nods. Whatever they're saying, it's clearly supportive, clearly trying to comfort him. He stands, stretches, and walks off the stage. His posture is straight, his head is high. He was tested tonight in a way he'd never been tested before, and he passed. Not by being cruel or vindictive, but by being himself, by standing up for his values and his show while maintaining his dignity. The cameras finally stop rolling. The audience is gone. The guests have left. But what happened tonight will live on, will be discussed and debated and analyzed. People will take sides, will argue about who was right and who was wrong. But anyone who was actually there, anyone who saw it unfold in real time, knows the truth. Graham Norton created a space where people could come and be celebrated. And when someone tried to tear that down, tried to poison that atmosphere with entitlement and anger, he stood his ground, not with aggression, not with matching Harry's hostility, but with quiet strength, with measured words, with an unwillingness to let his show, his creation, his safe space be turned into something ugly. In the makeup room, Graham sits getting the studio makeup removed. His face, stripped of the television polish, looks tired. This took a toll, you can see it. But there's also something else there, something like resolve. He's not going to let this break him. He's not going to let one bad experience overshadow years of good ones. A production assistant brings him tea, He accepts it gratefully, wraps his hands around the warm mug. Someone makes a joke, and he laughs, genuinely laughs, and you can see him starting to decompress, starting to process, starting to move forward. Because that's what professionals do. They face challenges, they handle difficult situations, and then they keep going. They don't dwell, don't spiral, don't let one bad day define them. The other guests pop in to say goodbye, to check on him one more time. There's real affection there, real camaraderie. They're all in this business together, all navigating the weird world of fame and publicity and public appearances. And tonight reminded them why people like Graham matter, why good hosts are so valuable. They share stories from their own careers, times when interviews went wrong, when guests were difficult, when live television threw them curveballs. It's a bonding moment, a reminder that everyone struggles sometimes, everyone faces challenges. Graham listens, contributes his own stories from years past. His voice is steady now, the shakiness from earlier completely gone. He's processing this the way he processes everything, with humor and perspective and an ability to see the bigger picture. Well, he says, finally, setting down his empty teacup, that's one for the memoirs. Everyone laughs. Because of course Graham would find a way to make light of it, to find the absurdity in the situation, even as he acknowledges its difficulty. He gathers his things, says his goodnights, and heads for the exit. The building is mostly empty now, just a few crew members finishing up their work. They wave as he passes, call out encouragement. He waves back, thanks them for their hard work tonight. Outside, the night air is cool and refreshing. Graham takes a deep breath, lets it out slowly. Behind him is a television studio where something extraordinary happened. Ahead of him is home, rest, a chance to reset before doing it all again. He gets in his car and sits there for a moment before starting the engine. His phone is buzzing with messages, calls, notifications. The story is already spreading, already becoming news. But he doesn't check any of it. Not yet. Right now, he just needs a moment of quiet. When he finally starts the car and pulls away, he's already thinking about next week's show, already planning, already moving forward. Because that's what you do when you love what you do, when you believe in what you've created. One confrontation, one difficult guest, one explosive moment doesn't change the fundamental truth of what the show is and what it means to people. It's a place of joy, of laughter, of celebration. And Graham Norton isn't going to let anyone take that away. The city lights blur past his window as he drives home. Somewhere out there, Harry is probably still angry, still convinced he was in the right, still feeling misunderstood and wronged. But that's not Graham's problem anymore. He did what he had to do. He stood up for himself, for his show, for his values. And he did it with class, with dignity, with the kind of grace under pressure that defines true professionals. Tomorrow, the think pieces will start appearing. People will analyze every word, every gesture, every moment of the confrontation. They'll debate who was right, they'll pick apart the dialogue, they'll create narratives and counter-narratives. But the people who were actually there, the audience members who witnessed it firsthand, they know the truth. They saw a beloved host faced with an impossible situation, and they saw him handle it perfectly. Not perfectly in the sense that everything went smoothly, but perfectly in the sense that he stayed true to himself. He didn't compromise his values, didn't sacrifice his dignity, didn't let someone else's anger turn him into someone he's not. Graham Norton built a career on being kind, on being welcoming, on creating a space where people felt safe to be themselves. And when that space was threatened, when someone tried to poison it with entitlement and rage, he protected it, not with aggression, but with boundaries, not with cruelty, but with consequences. Not by sinking to Harry's level, but by maintaining his own standards and expecting others to do the same. As he pulls into his driveway, Graham allows himself a small smile. It was a rough night, definitely one of the toughest in his career. But he got through it, and more than that, he got through it in a way he can be proud of. He'll sleep tonight knowing he did the right thing, handled himself with integrity, showed the world what real professionalism looks like, and tomorrow he'll wake up and start preparing for next week's show. Because that's the thing about people like Graham Norton. They don't give up. They don't let setbacks define them. They face challenges head on, handle them with grace, and then they keep moving forward. The confrontation with Harry will be remembered, will be talked about, will become part of television history. But it won't be the end of the story. It's just one chapter, one moment, one night, in a career spanning decades. And when people look back on it years from now, they won't remember it as the time Graham Norton lost control of his show. They'll remember it as the time he stood up for what he believed in, handled a crisis with dignity, and showed everyone watching what real class looks like. Inside his house, Graham finally checks his phone. Messages of support from friends, colleagues, other hosts who know how difficult live television can be. They're all saying the same thing. He handled it perfectly. He did nothing wrong. They're proud of him. He responds to a few, sends thanks, assures everyone he's okay. Because he is okay. Shaken, certainly. Surprised by how ugly things got, but fundamentally okay. He makes himself another cup of tea, sits down in his favorite chair, and finally allows himself to fully relax. The adrenaline that's been keeping him going all night finally starts to fade, and exhaustion sets in. But it's a good exhaustion, the kind that comes from knowing you faced something difficult and came through it intact. He didn't just survive tonight, he triumphed. Not in a flashy way, not in a way that will make headlines about him being a hero, but in the quiet, important way that matters most. He maintained his integrity. He stood up for himself without being cruel. He drew boundaries without being aggressive. He showed strength without showing ego. These are the qualities that have made him successful, that have kept his show on the air for so many years, that have earned him the love and respect of millions. And tonight, when those qualities were tested in the most public way possible, they held firm. Graham finishes his tea and heads upstairs. Tomorrow there will be more to deal with, more conversations to have, more decisions to make. But tonight, he can rest knowing he did everything right. The show will go on. Next week, there will be new guests, new stories, new moments of laughter and joy. And the week after that, and the week after that. Because one bad night doesn't define a legacy. What defines a legacy is how you respond to challenges, how you treat people when things get difficult, how you maintain your values even when it would be easier to abandon them. And by that measure, Graham Norton's legacy is secure. He faced his biggest challenge, and he passed with flying colors. Not because he won some kind of confrontation, but because he never lost sight of who he is and what he stands for. As he drifts off to sleep, Graham Norton can rest easy, knowing that he did exactly what needed to be done. He protected his show, stood up for himself, and showed the world what real professionalism looks like. And in the morning, he'll wake up ready to do it all over again.